Hello, all you crypto fans, and I have some news for you. We've got to talk about this, but the US government is attacking the crypto mining industry, specifically the Bitcoin mining industry. And this could actually be one of those reasons that proof of work eventually fails. Report came out that Bitcoin went from using 0.6% of the nation's electricity to 2.3% of the nation's electricity. You're thinking 2.3%, that's not a big deal. It's not even 5%. But think about it this way. The US has 50 states, and each state, on average, would use about 2% of the nation's electricity. So Bitcoin is using more than one whole state's worth of electricity to power itself. Now, you got to ask yourself, would you rather have a state like Alabama or would you rather have Bitcoin? Your choice. I guess the people in Alabama can go without electricity to power the Bitcoin. But that doesn't mean you can't do both. You just have to upgrade and increase the output of your energy grid, which obviously has things like emissions that you actually have to think of. And if you want to do that, if you want to get rid of that, you have to go completely green, which some Bitcoin farms are actually doing. So there's a lot of nuances to this, but I think the nation, to support the Bitcoin mining, will have to upgrade the grid. And a growth from 0.6% to 2.3% for Bitcoin mining is very significant. What if it grows to 5% or more next year, or this year in 2024, I should say? Then you're getting to a large chunk of the nation's grids specifically for Bitcoin mining, and that could actually interrupt like emergency power sources, or if you have to shut down the Bitcoin mining to actually power electricity in case of emergencies, that could result in a lot of loss of revenue for the Bitcoin mining companies. So there's a lot of actually things to digest here, and it is actually starting to take a large part of the nation's energy grid. But I do think we can work around this. But that's not going to stop politicians from piling and riling up on this. And the only way to do it, to really deal with this eventually, is for Bitcoin to go proof of stake, to kill that attack vector. But that's not going to happen anytime soon. So this will obviously continue to be an issue. The Biden administration, because of this report, has actually launched an emergency survey of Bitcoin miners' electricity usage. This is not like an emergency survey to shut down Bitcoin. They just want to know like who's mining and how they're actually mining. It will begin next week, and they'll question mining firms on how many mining facilities they own, where they operate, and whether they interact with cryptocurrencies using a proof of work or proof of stake consensus mechanism. Proof of stake obviously does not require much energy. Proof of work is the one that requires energy. It would be a little bit weird if America ends up using like 20-30% of its power to power Bitcoin right now. And I think that's a little too much. So Bitcoin's fallen under attack again. But there is another more serious reason, in my opinion, why like the attack against Bitcoin actually has some credibility. Because it's actually making people, the noise coming from these mines is actually making some people really, really miserable. So in Granbury, Texas, there's basically a nonstop roar of Bitcoin mining noise. And I know this is true because I've actually mined before, and there's always a hum on your computer if you mine. That was so loud, I had to move my computer across two walls into the next room to actually like sleep at night. So that's just one computer, and that's like one laptop when I was doing it. Imagine like a whole gigantic facility of Bitcoin miners doing the same thing. There's going to be like an airplane roar coming out of that. So it's basically like a constant low-key plane roar for this to actually work. So people are saying it's like sitting on the runway of an airport where jets are taking off one after another. It obviously bothers with communications. And yes, it does prevent that kind of like low hum constant, pretty much like all the time. That does actually give people migraines, and it prevents them from sleeping well. And quality of life obviously goes down. Wildlife departs because of the noise pollution and all that stuff. So I do think this is a valid complaint. And obviously like this is going to decrease the value of property around this area, and it's going to make life miserable. And the mayor around there says like, my citizens are suffering. Now, Texas is actually very, very pro Bitcoin because it brings a lot of jobs, brings a lot of like finances for the state. But the thing is, like, for the people living next to this thing, it's really a living hell because it's really hard to get sleep with that kind of noise, and it does give you migraines, which are pretty horrible. So I think Bitcoin mining companies should actually have to locate themselves away from human civilization where the noise does not affect people. Because you can't just be like, oh, we're setting up a Bitcoin mine near your town. Oh, by the way, you're never going to sleep again. That's utter BS. So I do actually think that the Bitcoin mining plant that's set up near a power plant last year, they should actually have to move because the town was there first. And of course, I don't know if the town's residents have much of a say in terms of the Bitcoin mine planting there or what consequences it would have until the mine was actually going. So I do think the mines like this that spring up near towns should have to pay reparations to the town, or just, there's plenty of desert in the United States. I know there's plenty of desert in Texas. I've driven past it. Locate your mine like 15, 20 miles away from town so no one can hear that stuff, because no one wants to hear that garbage humming all day. So essentially, I do think this particular complaint is actually really serious because I know from personal experience, and also it's a very valid complaint that you just can't like stick a giant mine next to a town and tell the residents that you can't really sleep anymore. So that's a very serious accusation, and I do actually believe it's true because this only started happening after last year, after they stuck a Bitcoin mine next to the town, next to the power plant. US lawmakers, on the other hand, are trying to overturn a bad Gary Gensler accounting policy, and it's spearheaded by Cynthia Loomis. And it's called Bulletin 121, and that makes it harder for companies to custody crypto or keep crypto. I do think they're making a lot of these bulletins in order to stop crypto expansion in the United States. So what they're trying to do is delete the controversial US SEC bulletin. I also think like this bulletin didn't go through Congress, so I'm not really sure how this is even legal. So basically, Senators Cynthia Loomis, Republican from Wyoming, Representatives Wiley Nickel, Democrat North Carolina, and Mike Flood, Republican Nebraska, introduced matching resolutions in Senate and House Representatives on Thursday that would formally disprove the accounting rule and conclude that it is no legal force. So they're trying to delete it. Gary Gensler probably does not like it, that they're trying to delete it, and it's another black mark on his resume. The SEC's 2022 Staff Accounting Bulletin number 121, which is SAB number 121, held that a company keeping a client's cryptocurrencies should do so on the firm's own balance sheet, which could force banks seeking to hold crypto to maintain that what they view as an onerous amount of capital to compensate for the risk. So basically, like, if you actually custody someone else's assets, you have to list it as your asset, which really doesn't make any sense. And of course, this move was not received well from the digital assets sector. And of course, when a federal regulator issues staff guidance, it's supposed to be advice on how to understand and interpret existing policy. But of course, this has nothing to do with existing policy. I think it was with the SEC trying to write new policy. So basically, and that was, and the Government Accountability Office, which is the GAO, found this last year, and it concluded that the SEC should have forwarded this policy to lawmakers and gone through the other hoops required for agency when it issues a new rule. But it didn't do that, so it is not valid. So I'm very glad that there's a bipartisan push to really rein in the SEC and stop them from doing whatever they feel like doing, because there definitely should be restraints on what they can and can't do. Coinbase is reducing fees. Yay! But only for people that trade over $500,000 a month. Boo! So it probably won't affect most of you in here. It is a step in the right direction. They are trying to attract more high-value investors. They usually only do this for people that trade over 250 million. So bringing it down from 250 million to 500,000 is a big step. And they're definitely trying to get high-value investors because their market share of high-value investors is quickly dropping as traditional custodians and traditional markets, traditional companies get into the space like BlackRock and Fidelity. So what they're doing is they're offering a zero-fee trading window for a period of 60 days, and it's exclusively targeting customers who have a track record of trading cryptocurrencies exceeding $500,000 a month on rival platforms, for instance, Binance, Kraken, etc. So they're trying to snipe customers away. Now, the other thing is that Coinbase's fees are actually higher than most other fees, especially the ones not located in the United States. So they're definitely suffering a market share drop, and they're really hoping that this pivots for them. And I'm not really sure if it will, but I wish Coinbase the best of luck. I wish they would actually bring it down even further so I could take advantage of it, because I do not trade $500,000 per month. I definitely do not trade $250 million a month, but they're slowly bringing it down. If they get it down to like 20, 25,000, maybe 2,000, 2,500, I might actually consider really trading Coinbase again. But right now, like, I do use it for buys and sells, but generally to like just buy smaller coins. And of course, I use it to cash out. So Coinbase is really trying to attract fat cat customers, but not the ones that are too fat, because they lowered it from 250 million to 500,000 to broaden that base. And I think they're pretty desperate to get customers. So maybe they will lower fees more for the rest of us later. So that's the news for today. Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe, hit that bell notifications button. Thank you and have a nice day.